Hello, this is the weekly fire alarm test video talking about your top 5 do's and don't do's. I'm going to dive straight into it. ARCs. ARC stands for Alarm Receiving Centre. Now, the Alarm Receiving Centre are also called the ARC or the monitoring station. When you break it down, what it is, it's the link between your fire alarm system and the fire brigade. So the fire alarm system goes off, signals to a 24-hour monitoring station. They then call the local fire brigade, who then turn up at your building. Now, you don't want that to happen when you're doing your weekly test. So you call the ARC, put the system on test, do your test. Then the top tip is to ring them back and ask them, did the signal go through? Because then you're not only doing your weekly test, you're also testing that your signal leaves the building, which is very important. The next thing I want to move on to is zones and devices. So the zones of your building when it comes to fire alarm systems are areas. So the ground floor, zone 1, first floor is zone 2, second floor is zone 3, stairs is zone 4, and maybe a plant room could be zone 5 and so on. Now, you're not necessarily interested in that as far as how the systems are split up from your testing point of view. What you're interested in is that where the devices are. Now, you're going to be testing these. So this is a manual call point. They all look roughly the same, from the side and from the front. There's quite a lot of manufacturers on the market. This particular one's a company called Fullion. And they all have different ways of testing them. They're called manual call points or break glasses. The break glass is because this bit used to be made of glass. Now it's plastic, and when you push it, it just pops up. And then you reset it with this particular one's there. Most of them are at the bottom now because that's where you normally get into. Some of them are at the side and so on. So this is your break glass. Now you need to keep records of this. Now what we've done is we've put a sticker on there, and we've put a sticker on there specifically because fire alarm devices sometimes have numbers on them, depending on the technology that you've got in your building. You're not interested in that. What you're interested in is you've got 10 call points. Now, the easiest way to deal with this is to number them 1 to 10. Week 1, do number 1, week 2, number 2, and so on. And when you get to week 11, you're back to number 1. And the best way of doing that is put a sticker on there, write on there that this is number 1, number 10, whatever it is. Some people just write on the front, but personally, I think this is a much neater solution, and you can change the sticker at some point if you have an extension to your building and so on. So the records. Now, you need to record this because the fire brigade will come to your building and they will ask to see your maintenance records. The maintenance records are the statutory stuff that the fire alarm company has to do, which is every 6 months, and also your weekly test. So that is the only place that you can record your weekly test with your fire alarm. I said only place. You could put it on a piece of paper, but it's much better if it's in one place and it's there in the box next to the fire alarm panel. There you go, Mr. Fire Brigade Man. There's my proof that I've been doing the tests. The other thing I need to talk about is working hours. So fire alarms are put in 99.9% of the time for people. People at work during working hours. There's no point in a fire alarm system going off at night because it's other than it tells the fire brigade to put the fire out, but really it's there for people protection. So do the test during working hours and ask them to tell you if they heard the fire alarm system, because that's another thing that you're going to get from this. If they can't hear the fire alarm, you can report it as being an issue with the system, and you can address that particular issue which could have affected somebody. So this weekly test is so important. The next thing is faults. If you come up at your fire alarm panel and you see any other lights on it than the system healthy, so it's a green LED and it will say system healthy, that's what you need to be looking for, and that should be the only thing that's lit on the panel. The display, you may have a display, depends what kind of fire alarm panel you've got. The display might say the name of the fire alarm company, or it might say system healthy, or whatever it says. That's kind of irrelevant for this, but the only LED that should be lit is the green one. If there's an orange one, there's faults, and if there's a red one, then there's a fire on the system. If there's a fire and nobody's doing anything about it, then you've got a problem with your system. So you need to report those things. Don't leave them. An example of batteries. With a fire alarm, batteries wear out. They last 3 or 4 years, and when they get to the end of their life, they wear out. So imagine if you had a power cut and then the batteries were faulty. That means that your fire alarm would fail very quickly, which means that you've got no fire alarm in your building. So it's very serious with fire alarms, and you need to address any faults. So they're the to-dos. Now, the next thing I want to move on is the don'ts, or this isn't, to be more precise. So this isn't a 6 monthly evacuation test. So your weekly test isn't the evacuation test. So every 6 months you do an evacuation test of your building, see how long it took to people to get out and so on. But that's different to this. So this is not what we're talking about. Don't alter the environment. So in other words, don't cover up the bells, don't disconnect things. Make sure that everything works as it is. So if you've got shutters that are supposed to come down, let them come down. Doors that are supposed to close, let them close. This is a weekly test of your fire alarm to make sure it's doing what it needs to do. Don't test the same call point. Now, often you'll find one of these call points next to the fire alarm panel, and it's really tempting to just test this one because it's there, it's easy, rather than walk through the warehouse to the back door where it's a bit colder out there and then have to walk back and so on. Now, it's very important that you keep testing different ones. There is also a button on the fire alarm panel that says sound alarms. That isn't a weekly test. That's just a way of evacuating the building. I don't know, if you had a bomb threat or something like that. Now, the one thing to just underline is this isn't your maintenance. So this, if you think this is doing your maintenance, this is something that you need to do as the building user, the responsible people for your building, on top of employing a company like us to do the every 6 months, test all the smoke detectors and check all the connections in the panel and make sure the batteries are still doing what they need to do and so on. So this is not statutory maintenance, not the statutory maintenance every 6 months anyway. And the last thing is, don't be the only person that knows how to do this. This is a weekly test. It means it's got to be carried out every week, unless you're not going to have a holiday, which is unlikely, and you deserve a holiday because you've been working hard. Is you need to find some other people in your business or your organisation that are capable of doing this. So I would recommend that you add 3, and to start off with, you could do it as a pair, or alternate the pairs, and then one person can swap around when someone's on holiday. It's very important that everybody knows how your system works. So that's our top 5 do's and don'ts. Now, there's lots of other stuff that you may have questions about with fire alarm systems. And the good thing about that is we've got a form on this page where you can fill in. You can email us, or you can call us on 01277 724 653. He says, looking down. So it's 01277 724 653. And you can ring us, and I'll help you. Anybody in the team are here to help you and make sure that you get the most out of your safety system. Thank you.